Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into the world of Oxygen XML Editor today.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is a good one. If you're out there listening and you are a technical writer, a documentation specialist, an IT professional,
Anyone who works with XML.
yeah, anyone working with XML,
Okay.
this is the episode. We're going to be focusing on an article today written by Curt Robbins,
Senior technical writers.
senior technical writer. He's got a lot of experience under his belt.
Oh, yeah.
He's worked at companies like FedEx,
Microsoft,
Microsoft, Wells Fargo.
Northrop Grumman,
Yeah, like big names.
USAA, PNC Bank. He's got the experience.
So yeah, we're going to be taking his article and kind of dissecting it
Getting to the heart of Oxygen.
so that you can quickly and easily understand everything you need to know about Oxygen XML Editor without having to read the whole article.
Exactly. Oxygen is a big topic, no pun intended.
Nah.
And we're going to make it digestible for you.
So to kind of kick things off, Oxygen, it's not really like a household name.
Not exactly a Silicon Valley startup.
Right.
No.
So where did this tool even come from?
It's kind of a fascinating story, actually. It all started back in 2001.
2001.
Not in California, believe it or not, but in Romania.
Okay.
Syncrosoft, a company that specializes in XML solutions, they saw this growing need for a tool that could handle XML
Yeah.
and it could do it efficiently.
Right.
And that's where Oxygen was born.
So a Romanian software company tackling XML. That's interesting.
It is, isn't it?
And what I think is really cool about Oxygen is it wasn't designed for just one specific type of XML.
That's a great point.
It was built to adapt.
Exactly.
Over time, it's evolved to support all sorts of XML standards like DITA.
Which we know and love for technical writing.
Of course.
DocBook, great for software documentation.
Yeah, and even like TEI, which I know some researchers use.
Academics, yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like Oxygen really embraces that whole world of XML.
All the flavors of XML, yeah, it can handle it. Like a Swiss Army knife for XML.
And from the beginning, Syncrosoft really focused on making it user-friendly.
But also extensible.
Yes.
Powerful combination.
And that's a big reason why I think it's become so popular with people who work with structured content day in and day out.
Makes their lives easier. And who doesn't want that?
So we've established that it's powerful, it's versatile.
Feature-rich.
Feature-rich.
Yeah.
But what are those features?
Let's dig in. Robbins goes through a bunch in his article.
Okay, well, where should we start?
You're a technical writer. You need to get this documentation out there.
Yep.
And Oxygen is like this toolbox.
Full goodies.
Full of all the tools you need to do the job. And one of the first things you'll find in that toolbox is...
Support for all those XML standards.
Exactly. Like having the right wrench for every bolt.
I love the tool analogies. Okay, so that versatility is a major advantage. You're not locked into a specific way of working.
Nope.
It can adapt.
Whatever you're doing. You could be working on technical manuals with DITA,
Yeah.
software guides with DocBook, academic papers with TEI, Oxygen, got you covered.
Okay, so we've got the right tools for the job.
Right.
But what about actually using them? Robbins talks about advanced authoring tools. That sounds pretty high-tech.
It is high-tech, but in a good way.
Okay.
So you can really focus on the writing and
Yeah.
structuring your content, without getting bogged down in code.
So it's like using a word processor,
Kind of.
but with all the power of XML underneath.
You got it. But there's more.
Cool.
There's something called topic-based authoring.
Okay.
And this lets you break down your documentation into smaller chunks, and you can reuse those chunks.
Oh, that's great.
Which is super helpful for creating modular content.
That makes sense.
The kind that's easy to update, easy to repurpose.
Okay, that's great for like solo projects.
Right.
What about if you're working on a team? Does Oxygen help you out there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's where Oxygen really shines. Remember those collaboration features?
Yeah.
It's got tools for reviewing, commenting, even integrating with systems like SharePoint and Git.
Oh, nice.
Which are essential for version control and team workflows.
So you're not left hanging when it comes to teamwork.
Definitely not. Oxygen's got your back.
Okay, so we're covered on the teamwork front. What about after the writing's done? How do we get all this amazing content out there?
That's where Oxygen really becomes a publishing powerhouse.
A powerhouse.
It can output your content in pretty much any format you can think of. PDF.
For those traditional manuals?
Exactly. HTML for web-based docs.
Love it.
Web help for those interactive help systems. Even EPUB for ebooks. And you can customize all of that with XSLT and CSS.
So it really is a one-stop shop.
Pretty much.
Okay, but hold on. Robbins also mentions localization and translation.
Oh, yeah.
So does that mean we can use Oxygen to reach a global audience?
Absolutely. Oxygen has built-in support for managing content in multiple languages. Plus, it can even integrate with translation management systems
Nice.
to streamline that whole localization process.
Okay, Oxygen is sounding pretty impressive so far.
It is a pretty amazing tool.
Okay, there's one more set of features in our toolkit that we haven't talked about yet. Extensibility and customization.
Ah.
What does that even mean?
Well, this is where Oxygen really becomes your own. It has an API
Okay.
that lets you create custom plugins and integrations.
Mm-hmm.
You can even use scripting languages like JavaScript
Okay.
to automate tasks and really tailor Oxygen to your specific workflow.
So if Oxygen doesn't have a feature that you need, you can just build it yourself.
Basically, yeah. That's the beauty of extensibility. You have the power to create your own personalized documentation environment.
And that is pretty rare.
Very rare.
Okay, we've talked about a lot of great stuff. Oxygen sounds really powerful, really versatile, but I'm sure there are some downsides.
Of course, no software is perfect.
Right.
Robbins is pretty honest about some of those challenges, and it's important to acknowledge those. One of the first things he points out is the learning curve.
The learning curve, yeah.
Oxygen has a lot of features,
Mm-hmm.
which is great once you know your way around.
Right.
But for beginners, it can be a little overwhelming.
Especially if you're not familiar with XML.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like trying to fly a spaceship when you've only ever driven a car.
That's a good analogy.
Right. There's a lot to learn.
Okay.
Robbins really stresses that if you're new to XML, you'll probably need some training
Okay.
to get up to speed with Oxygen.
So that's challenge number one, the learning curve.
Yeah. What else do we have?
Well, there's the elephant in the room,
Oh, yeah.
the cost.
The cost. Yeah, Robbins doesn't shy away from that. Oxygen is not exactly a budget-friendly tool.
So how much are we talking here?
Well, a single user license
Okay.
starts at around $1,000,
Okay.
and that's just for the license itself.
Right.
You also have annual maintenance fees on top of that.
So it's not just a one-time payment.
Not really, no.
Okay, so that's a pretty big investment.
It is. It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. So we've got the learning curve, we've got the cost. Are there any other challenges?
Well, Robbins does mention that Oxygen can be pretty resource-intensive.
Resource intensive, what do you mean?
It takes a lot of computing power,
Oh,
especially when you're working on large projects or doing complex transformations.
so you need a pretty powerful machine.
Yeah, you need a computer that can handle it.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with tons of content, Oxygen's hunger for resources can really impact performance and slow things down.
Okay, so the learning curve, the cost, and the resource requirements. Anything else?
One more thing. Robbins brings up the complexity of the tool itself.
Okay.
So while Oxygen has that user-friendly editor,
Yeah.
it's still built on XML. Oxygen is an XML-centric tool at its heart.
So some of those advanced features might not be so user-friendly.
Exactly. Robbins is very clear that you really need to understand XML
Go.
and related technologies.
To really get the most out of Oxygen.
Right. That editor is great for basic tasks,
Mm-hmm.
but for more complex stuff, you're going to have to dive into the XML.
Okay, so to recap, Oxygen has some amazing strengths.
Comprehensive XML support,
A robust authoring environment,
multi-channel publishing,
collaboration tools.
customization.
But we also need to be realistic about the challenges.
Right.
The learning curve, the cost,
Yeah.
the resource requirements, the complexity for non-technical users.
It's important to weigh both the pros and cons.
Okay, so let's talk about the money.
Let's do it.
Let's break down those licensing models. Robbins gives us a really good overview of what's available.
Okay, so Robbins explains that Oxygen has a few different licensing options to choose from.
Right, they try to cater to different needs and budgets.
So first up, we have the single user license.
The one that starts at around $1,000.
That's the one.
Yeah, it's a perpetual license.
So you pay for it once,
You got it. You pay once and you own it.
but there's a catch, right?
There's always a catch.
There's always a catch.
The license includes 1 year of software updates
Okay.
and technical support.
Mm-hmm.
After that year, you have to pay an annual fee if you want to keep getting those updates and support.
So it's not really a one-time payment,
Not in the long run.
more like a subscription with a big upfront cost.
You could see it that way.
Okay. So that's the single user perpetual license.
Right.
What other options are out there?
Well, if you don't want to commit to that perpetual license right away,
Mm-hmm.
Oxygen also offers subscription licenses.
Subscription licenses, okay.
These are annual plans that could be a better fit.
You know, for shorter term projects, or if you're not sure if you're going to need Oxygen for the long haul.
So you pay a yearly fee, and then you get access to the software.
That's it, like renting instead of buying.
Okay, I like that analogy.
And the good news is these subscription plans usually include updates and support.
Oh, okay, so you don't have to pay extra for that.
Nope, it's all included.
So we've got the perpetual license,
Right.
the subscription license.
Yeah.
What about larger organizations?
They've got you covered too. For teams or companies that need multiple licenses or want a more centralized setup, Oxygen offers enterprise licensing.
Enterprise licensing. Okay.
And this is where things get a little more customized.
Okay.
The pricing really depends on the organization's needs,
Right.
how many users they have, what kind of deployment they're looking for.
So there's a bit more bespoke.
Exactly. You work directly with Oxygen to figure out what's best for you. They're pretty flexible when it comes to pricing and deployment.
Sounds like a good option for those big companies.
Definitely.
And I'm guessing it probably comes with a pretty hefty price tag.
Well, it's not the cheapest option, but it's designed for organizations that need that level of customization and support.
That makes sense.
But here's some good news. Oxygen also offers academic discounts.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so students and researchers can get access to this powerful tool without spending a fortune.
So they make it a little more accessible.
Exactly. They recognize that not everyone has a big corporate budget.
Okay, that's good to know.
So that's a quick overview of the licensing models.
Okay, so we've covered all the licensing options.
We have.
But Oxygen is still a pretty big investment. So the big question is
it worth it? And there's no easy answer.
Right.
It really depends on your needs and your circumstances.
Okay.
But one thing that Robbins makes very clear is that Oxygen is really designed for technical users. People who are already comfortable working with structured content.
Right.
People who get XML.
So it's not for casual users or beginners.
Probably not the best fit for them. You really need to understand XML and all those related technologies.
To really take advantage of everything Oxygen has to offer.
Yeah, he even says that training and hands-on experience are often necessary.
Okay, so it's powerful, but it takes some expertise to use it effectively.
Exactly.
And that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're deciding whether or not to invest in Oxygen.
Right. It's not just about the money, it's about the time and effort.
Right. You're going to have to invest some time in learning the tool.
And that leads us perfectly into Robbins' final thoughts on ease of use.
Okay.
He admits that Oxygen can simplify some tasks, but it's still, at its heart, an XML-centric tool.
Right, which means those advanced features might not be so easy to use.
That's right. Robbins points out that if you're already comfortable with XML or DITA, Oxygen can be a really efficient environment. But for those new to structured content, it can be pretty intimidating at first.
Okay, so we've explored Oxygen XML Editor. We've seen all the amazing things it can do.
We have.
We've talked about the support for different XML standards, the robust authoring environment, the publishing capabilities, the collaboration features, the customization options.
All that good stuff.
But we've also been upfront about the challenges, the learning curve, the cost, the resource requirements, and the complexity for non-technical users.
It's all about finding the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Oxygen XML Editor. We hope this episode has given you the information and insights you need
to make the right decision for your documentation needs.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating.